To be honest, it's not something that a topic that I usually like to pick up, but I believe God led me to this. So, just to get right into it, the passage is from Exodus chapter 23. I'm going to read from verse 1 to 8. So, Exodus chapter 23, verses from 1 to 8. I'm reading the NLT version. Okay. Verse 1. You must not pass along false rumors. You must not cooperate with evil people by lying on the witness stand. You must not follow the crowd in doing wrong. When you are called to testify in a dispute, do not be swayed by the crowd or twist justice. And do not slant your testimony in favor of a person just because that person is poor. If you have come upon an enemy's ox or a donkey that has strayed away, take it back to its owner. If you see that the donkey of someone who hates you has collapsed under its load, do not walk by. Instead, stop and help. In a lawsuit, you must not deny justice to the poor. Be sure never to charge anyone falsely with evil. Never sentence an innocent or blameless person to death, for I never declare a guilty person to be innocent. Finally, verse 8. Take no bribes, for a bribe makes you ignore something that you clearly see. A bribe makes even a righteous person twist the truth. Okay, so this passage, just to quickly summarize and go through some of the things that this passage talks about, I'll break it down to three portions. So verse 1 to 3 talks about honesty. Honesty in a judicial setting and in a non-judicial setting. Some of the key things in this, like verse 1 talks about false rumors. Some versions say false reports, or being a false or lying witness. Verse 2 talks about following the crowd, when you have a testimony that's not what the crowd believes and you have to stand up and say what you have to say, not being swayed by the crowd. There's certain versions that also say that it is something maybe you might be familiar here in Kerala, how politicians can twist the crowd into what they want, right? So some versions also talk about that aspect, twisting the crowd to what may not be true. Verse 3 talks about favoring a person or slanting a testimony. It says very clearly, even if a person is poor, don't slant your testimony in favor of that person. So verse 4 to 5 is the second section of this, and it's a switch from this topic of honesty. Now we move to something called taking responsibility to protect others' property, and that too, to the extent it's your enemy's property. So verse 4, returning the lost donkey in this case, helping and supporting. The verse said, the donkey of someone you hate is collapsed under its load. Do not walk by. Instead, stop and help. Finally, the last portion is verse 6 to 8, and it's back to talking about justice. Do not deny justice to the poor. Never sentence an innocent, blameless person, and take no bribes. Now, the first part of this that I wanted to share, and there's one more thing I want to focus on. When I first read this was sometime about a couple of weeks back, and when I first read this first 8 verses, this portion is talking about the different rules that God gave Moses as the people were traveling through the desert, going to start traveling through the desert as they just got out of Egypt. And especially verse 1 to 3 and then 6 to 8 really just hit me, because there's an uncanny resemblance in those verses and how it connects to, Jesus' death. To give you like say about 5 examples of how I connected this. The first verse talks about false witnesses, and that happened when Jesus died. The chief priests tried to bring false witnesses. It's in Matthew 26, 59 to 61. They tried to bring false witnesses to falsely, accuse and condemn Jesus. Following the crowd, Peter's denial 3 times. He couldn't stand up there. Twisting the crowd, the chief priest was stirring up the crowd to crucify Jesus. They used this mob psychology to ensure that Jesus was crucified and Barnabas was freed. Sentencing the innocent. Don't need to say more than that. And then finally, bribery, how Judas betrayed Jesus. This was just, when I read this and suddenly this thought just came to my mind. This was really so resembling of what, all the things that Jesus went through. Now, many things in this passage, we already, the things that are common. Bribery, everybody knows we're not supposed to take a bribe. Or, not blame an innocent person, things like that. But honestly, if I want to focus on one thing today morning, is the first verse, the first line that says, you must not pass on false rumors. So, I don't know why the Lord led me to this, but I really feel this is what the Lord led me to. And I want to share some thoughts on this. So, the word rumor or gossip. So, the original version, I think, says false reports. It's the newer translations that say rumor. Gossip is a word that goes along with rumor. So, just to do we know what's the exact meaning of the word gossip? So, I looked online and I find casual or unrestrained conversation or reports about other people, typically involving details that are not confirmed as true. That's the exact meaning of the word gossip. Or one can say casual talk about other people's personal or private affairs. That's a simpler word. The word rumor. Anybody? Rumor. Rumor, the exact word or the meaning online says a currently circulating story or report of uncertain or doubtful truth. Now, I was reading up and looking things up online. I found this very interesting write-up about the word gossip. And it says, gossip is like a secret craving. We say we don't like it, but when it's within reach, we almost can't resist it. We get a sudden appetite to know what we don't know about somebody else. Why is it so hard to stop? And there's a verse from the Bible here, that's Proverbs 18:8, and says, the words of gossip are like choice morsels. They go down to the man's inmost parts. I believe it's in this culture that we live in. Today, the newspapers sell more if they have gossip, and it's difficult. It's really sad. There's nobody here who hasn't experienced this, I believe. A very funny thing that I thought of to relate to the word gossip is this game that we play as children, and I think we played this in one of our youth camps in the past year. It's a variation of Chinese whispers. I don't know if the young people remember. We did it in an action format. So somebody was standing on stage, everybody else in a line facing back, and the first person turns, he gets some kind of an action that he has to copy and pass on to the end. And how the game basically talks about how the action on top is very different, or what comes at the end of the line is very different from what's here. And I think that's a very good analogy of what a rumor or gossip is, because what actually was there is not the truth. And what finally comes out, you can never say that was the truth. So with this, I really want to get into something practical and really say this, okay? What do you do? Obviously, all of us hear gossip, and all of us hear rumors. But what are some practical steps that I believe I follow? And so the first thing is pray. really just pray. Pray to God for wisdom to discern gossip, because usually it's not in just there. People are not going to say, I'm gossiping, and just gossip. You have to really discern gossip in the words that people say, and to watch our own words. Sometimes we're excited about talking about things, and maybe we tend our conversations, or something that we say might lead to gossip. So we really need to pray. We really need to ask God and ask for the Holy Spirit's discernment in this. The second thing is when we hear it. Honestly speaking, it's really simple. Just ignore. Don't pass it on. Just stop. So there's this analogy that we had during COVID. If you can show the image. Yeah. This is a popular picture because of COVID. And it applies with gossips. I mean, that one match that chose to move away prevented it from spreading further. So it's just that. But there is often the case that sometimes what we say, or the thing that we hear, the third point I want to share in practical things is, if it's serious, there's sometimes you need to do something as maybe teachers of Sunday school or somebody. The gossip is really something of concern. So to really put it in perspective, I didn't know how better to do this, and I was actually looking for some young person, and today sorry Sean, this is not personal, but this is just as a hypothetical example, so I'm going to use Sean. So say I hear something about Sean, right? And it's serious, and I'm really convicted that this is something of concern. I know Sean's parents. I know they're honorable people, they're people of God. I can take it up with them, take it up directly with them, that they can do something with Sean. Or if I don't know Sean's parents, I would rather take it up with somebody, pray and really pray about this, because it could be the pastor, it could be some church elder, it could be somebody who leads the youth, the young people, and talk to them. But when we do that, we have to be very careful that doesn't become another gossiping point. So this is really something that I felt strongly that I wanted to share. And I really the plea that God put in my heart about this was, it's so negative, and it's so difficult when there's gossip around, and with anybody, whether it's young or old. But the plea that I had, that God really put in my heart, was this. It's important that we safeguard our children and young people, our youth here, instead of gossiping about it. And I want to end with a warning that's in Proverbs 3:13, and that says, "He who guards his lips guards his life, but he who speaks rashly will come to ruin."
ഇന്ന് കേട്ട ഈ സന്ദേശം തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും നിങ്ങൾക്ക് അനുഗ്രഹമായിരുന്നു ഞങ്ങൾ വിശ്വസിക്കുന്നു. ഒരുപക്ഷെ നിങ്ങൾ ഇതുവരെയും ഈ ചാനൽ സബ്സ്ക്രൈബ് ചെയ്തിട്ടില്ലെങ്കിൽ ദയവായി ഇപ്പം തന്നെ ഒന്ന് സബ്സ്ക്രൈബ് ചെയ്യുക. ഈ സന്ദേശം മറ്റു ചിലർ കൂടി ഒന്ന് ഫോർവേഡ് ചെയ്ത് കൊടുക്കുക. നിങ്ങൾക്കിത് അനുഗ്രഹമായിരുന്നെങ്കിൽ തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും അത് മറ്റുള്ളവർക്കും ഒരു അനുഗ്രഹമായി തീരുവാൻ അത് കാരണമായി തീരും. ഗോഡ് ബ്ലെസ് യു.